because there's so many things. And we're live. Okay. Now we're really going. We're going to continue on page 128 as we join together singing Hine Matov, how good it is for all of us to be together. Hine Matov u'manayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim sheverachim gam yachad. Continue singing together the words of Psalm 95 and 96, Lechu Neranana, which is on page 130. Continue welcoming Shabbat as we join together in singing the words of Lecha Dodi, which is on page 138. We'll join together, if you're looking in the prayer book, in verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And as we reach the final verse, we will rise and face the entryway to welcome Shabbat like a bride or a queen. Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 Likrat Kala, ya la 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 B'nei Shabbat, continue with our words of welcome, welcoming the Shabbat ministering angels of peace as we join together in singing Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zeitem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zeitem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We'll continue back on page 120 as we kindle the Shabbat candles. If you have candles at home and you'd like to join in, please feel free. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We'll continue on page 144 as we transition into the Shema and her blessings section of our service. Page 144. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon, Uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael, bagala, uvizman kariv, v'imeru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach, le'alam u'la'om me'almaya, yitbarach ve'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, Vitadar, vitale, vitalal, shemei de kedusha prichu, leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma, v'imeru amen. We will rise together for our call to prayer, Baruch Hu, on page 146. continue on page 148. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Oreyom v'layla, kolel or mipnei choshech, kolel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei yom. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Oreyom v'layla, kolel or mipnei choshech, kolel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei yom. We'll continue on the bottom of page 151. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us, and the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We'll continue with Shema, our proclamation of faith, as we rise together on page 152 and 153. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Please be seated. We'll continue on page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha uvelechtecha vaderech uvshochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha vehayu letotafot beineinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru Vasitem et kol mitzvotai, vihitem kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher Hotzeiti Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim, Lihiot Lachem Le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. We'll continue on page 159. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravaged by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. We'll continue with our prayer for freedom and redemption, Mi Chamocha, on page 158. Does anyone else smell anything that's burning? Is it just me? Could be the candle that's going crazy, but just want to be safe. We will continue on page 161 at the top. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukkot shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We'll continue singing Hashkivenu. May God's sheltering presence rest on us and give us a sheltering presence of peace tonight and every night. continue together as we rise for tefillah, beginning on page 164, and we'll continue on even-numbered pages. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Velohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chastei Avot V'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye Hakol atah Rav Lehoshia, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Baal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, B'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. We'll continue on the top of page 171. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Blessed is the Eternal One, the Holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. We'll continue on page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. On page 177, at the top, we'll say a prayer of thanksgiving. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. Continue with our prayer for peace. Shalom Rav on page 178. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Chasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Chasim Leolam. Shalom Rab al Yisrael Amcha Hasim Leolam. Shalom Rab al Yisrael Amcha Hasim Leolam. Hasim Leolam. Hasim Leolam. We'll take a moment in our service for our own quiet thoughts and prayers. Yehiyu leratzon imreifi behegyo libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Suri Begoali Yehiyu leratzon imreifi behegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri Begoali. We take the moment now in our service to think of our loved ones and family members who are in need of a prayer of healing. As we prepare to say Misha Berach, our prayer for healing for those who we're holding in our hearts, if you in the chat or on Zoom would like to write their names of loved ones who are in need of a prayer of healing in the chat, please do. If you are here in the sanctuary and as I look your way, you would like to share a name, please feel free. Tim and Larry Williams, and Alex Clapperich, Paul Giblin, Gail Rose Carmack, Charlie Guberman, Martin Lewis, and Nadine Hyman. We say, Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim, blessed is God who brings healing to those who are in need of healing. We'll join together on page 371 from Misha Berach. Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Earlier this week, I read a little Torah commentary by someone who I met a long time ago in rabbinical school. He and I participated in what was, at least at the time, called the Ride for Reform, a bike ride that we did from Tel Aviv to Eilat, which was about a 400-kilometer bike ride. His name is Cantor Evan Kent, and he wrote this little Devar Torah for the reformjudaism.org's website on this week's Torah portion. And the part really that kind of stuck with me most was his introduction, which is that because this week is the week where we begin the last book of the Torah, the book of Deuteronomy, he said that when he sees that space, that if you look in the Torah scroll, at the end of the book of Numbers, and this is true, by the way, between all of the books of the Torah, there is about usually an 1.5 or a 2-inch gap where there's no writing, there's nothing, it's just blank space. For him, he said that to see that space is a thrilling experience, and he loves to think about all of the things that could be filling in that space, which I think is an interesting idea. For me personally, seeing that space, this space between the book of Numbers and the book of Deuteronomy, is kind of panic-inducing because it just means that the high holidays are sooner. But that being said, there's something really interesting combining that kind of idea of panic-inducing high holidays are close by and actually what that blank space at the end of the Torah between Numbers, the book of Numbers and the book of Deuteronomy kind of represents. He reflected also on this idea that this moment represented the nearing of a completion of what we consider to be a regular cycle. It hasn't always been the case where we've read the entire Torah every year in Jewish tradition, but it is for the most part now. And so as we reach the conclusion or are approaching the conclusion of the Torah, we're supposed to reflect on, or he would like us to reflect on this idea that the story doesn't change from year to year. And we read it anyway. We read the same words over and over again. Part of what I personally would like to share about that is, which is kind of veering from what he's talking about, but I think the idea that he points to that this is the beginning or the nearing of a conclusion of something that is cyclical. When we read stories don't change. When we tell stories, they can change dramatically from telling to telling. But when we read stories, the words on the page don't change. What changes as we read from year to year is us. We change. In fact, there is a phrase in the book of Psalms that tells us that every bit of creation is completely different every moment of our lives. And that all we need to do is to see this possibility of difference as being something that can lead to a positive in order for us to move forward. What is interesting about the fact that we read the same words every year in this context in particular is that Moses, the leader of the Israelites from the beginning of the book of Exodus to the end of our Torah, our leader is a flawed character, and we know that his point of leadership ends in a way that Moses would like to have changed. Moses would have very much liked, we know because there's actually several arguments recorded in the Torah that he would have preferred to enter into the land. And so when we think about this from year to year, we can get stuck in thinking about the what-ifs of the particular story in Moses' case. But I think our tradition actually teaches us sometimes it's important, and maybe even more important, to see what's not said in a particular story than what is. And there is an ancient tradition that says actually when God was writing the Torah for the first time before the creation of anything, that the Torah was written with two kinds of fire, with white fire and with black fire. And the black fire are the words on the page, and the white fire is all the space in between. And that message is supposed to teach us that those things that are not said have sometimes, at least, as great of a message to teach us as what's there. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that as we're looking at the story of Moses and in our minds thinking of all of the things that Moses might have done differently in order that he would have been able to continue leading the people, this is a perfect opportunity. This moment that I say is panic-inducing, is the perfect moment to think about all of the ways that we would like to think of how we can change our story. That's what this whole season leading up to the high holidays is supposed to be about. Beginning the process of teshuvah. The word teshuvah, I think most of us know, but the word teshuvah means to turn. But the turning is not something, not really a physical turning. It's a turning inwards. It is an attempt to see our own story, where we are in our own journey, and to see and to acknowledge, on one hand, that we are not static creatures. Humans like to think of ourselves as having a distinct personality, something that exists in the world that is static and that we are who we are, and that is what brings us a sense of integrity. And while if we are living our lives in our best way at all moments, that is certainly something to be proud of. But this season, and this, I think, acknowledgement of the blank spaces in the Torah, leading us to think about the possibilities of what could be, and the process of teshuvah in general teaches us that we are not static. We can change, and we should always strive to be changing to the best that we can possibly be. I hope that as we move further and further closer to the high holidays, that we are able to not find the kind of regrets that Moses finds himself in as we move closer to the end of his story, but that we're able to look at what we're doing now and to change our lives in such a way that allows us to ultimately be proud of who we are and of what we are doing in the world. Shabbat Shalom. We are going to continue with Aleinu as we rise together on page 586. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liotzer b'reshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, v'lo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Please be seated. On page 591, may we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu Yeh Adonai Echad, Ushemo, Ushemo, Ushemo Echad. We devote the next few moments of our service to honor the memories of those we have loved and lost, holding in our hearts those for whom this week and this Shabbat are a yahrzeit or an anniversary of their death. Ruby W. Taylor and Natalie Greenspoon Solomon. If there are loved ones you're holding in your hearts and you're on Zoom and you'd like to enter their names in the chat, I'll read them in a moment. And if there's anyone in the sanctuary and you'd like to share the name of a loved one who you're holding in your hearts this evening, please feel free as I look your way. Angela Banker. For all of our loved ones we hold in our hearts in loving memory, we say, Zichronam livracha, may their memories always be a blessing. We'll rise as we turn to page 598 for Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyom echon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen, yehi shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei de kedusha b'richu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen Osei shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace in the heavens on high bring peace to us here on earth, to all Israel and all the world, and bring comfort to those who are mourning. Together we say, Amen. Please be seated. We have just a couple of announcements. First, actually something in writing this week. We are holding my youngest daughter Ellie's baby naming on Saturday, July 31st at 5 p.m. We're going to have a tent set up in the parking lot, and there will be a Havdalah service and a baby naming as we officially welcome Ellie into the Jewish community. And we thought that this would be a great opportunity to bring as many people together outside. We are going to be sponsoring a light dinner catered by Greenville. So if you are going to be joining us and you haven't RSVP'd, just so we know how much food to buy, please RSVP to the office. You can see the email here. By the 23rd, which is next Friday, you could also RSVP on Shul Cloud if you just go to our website. So I'm hoping we get a really good turnout for that. It should be a good opportunity to celebrate together. And desserts are being made by the sisterhood too. So even if you don't care about Havdalah or baby namings, you should come for dessert. Thank you for that reminder, Joe. It's written here. I just didn't say it. I'm sorry. Let's see. The other announcement I have is that our Music on Sunday series is officially happening, or at least we really hope it's happening. It is scheduled to happen beginning in January of 2022. We have 3 concerts scheduled, and you can find the information about these concerts and the ability to purchase tickets on our website. So I'm hoping that, again, that we'll get good turnouts for these. I know that Jeff and the Music on Sunday committee do a lot of work in putting these programs together, and so they are always a good time and good music. We are going to say our blessings over Kiddush, and if someone has something to say motzi with, we'll say motzi and blessing our children, and then we will conclude our service. But first, Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam porei peri hagafen l'chaim. And whether you, are with your children or holding them in your hearts, we can say our blessing for our children together. Yisimech Elohim ke'Ephraim v'chi Menashe. May you be blessed like the children of Joseph, Ephraim, and Menashe. Yisimech Elohim ke'Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah. May you be blessed like the mothers of our people, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. We wish the blessing of always being proud of who you are to our children and always striving to be the best version of yourselves. As we bless our children with these words of Torah, Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's light shine on you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence always feel close to you, and may you always be blessed with the most important gifts of wholeness and peace. We say together, Amen. We can say motzi together. I was this close to remembering to go to the grocery store and getting a challah, but I did not. But anyway, we'll join together, and just in case anyone hasn't eaten dinner yet. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. And we're going to conclude our service singing Oseh Shalom, our prayer for peace, and then I'll unmute everyone on Zoom and wish everyone here a Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I hope everyone has a wonderful Shabbat and weekend.